Young boss, please look at the camera here. With all due respect, may we know the family backing you? Boss, why did you sell so many Class A Vast Sky Thunderous Dragons in one go? You didn't advertise them in advance either. Didn't you suffer a huge loss? Boss, Suaping had just completed the deal with Cleo when he was surrounded by the reporters. What is going on? Suaping blinked his eyes speechlessly. He didn't expect that selling 10 mid-level aptitude pets would attract that much attention. It wouldn't have happened on the Blue Planet. It wasn't because the locals of the Blue Planet had seen better, but their available testing devices weren't as advanced as their counterparts in the Federation. Those who had bought or trained pets in Suaping's place knew that the pets were very strong, but they didn't know how strong the pets were exactly, which didn't encourage a faster dissemination. After all, the descriptions such as very good or very strong were quite subjective, whereas Class A aptitudes were objective and unified in the Federation. It was very special to Ria's locals. Boss, your shop has sold so many Class A pets. Is it because a 4-starred master trainer is supporting your shop? Boss, we had never heard of your shop before. Is it a branch of a major chain from another planet that intends to compete with Ria's local corporations? After hearing the reporter's assorted questions, Suaping had to raise his hand to interject. Silence. He spoke quietly, but his voice was intimidating and commanding. The noisy reporters were quickly silenced. They were naturally awed and fearful, as if a more advanced life form were looking down upon them. There's indeed a master trainer in this shop. As for competitions, this shop only does its own business and is not interested in competing with anyone. Suaping added calmly, this shop will sell and train more Class A battle pets in the future. Be on the lookout for them if you are interested. You're welcome to return and report about them too. With that, Suaping ended while looking at the reporters. Please continue with your own affairs. Business hours are over. It would be a huge waste if he didn't take advantage of the free reporters to promote his shop. As for the Class A aptitude, he was simply talking in a way that other people could understand. He considered himself more or less a master trainer. After all, he could train the highly regarded Class A battle pets. Once he thought of that, Suaping drove the reporters out of the shop. Boss, let's chat for a while longer. Boss, it's barely noon, and you're already closing your shop. Will you open the shop in the afternoon? Boss, what are your business hours? Boss, will more Class A pets be available as you said? Is it true? Care to tell us more details? The reporters who hadn't even reached the ocean state were pushed out of the shop by Suaping with astral power. Soon there will be more details available for you. As for business hours, sometimes it's morning, sometimes it's afternoon, depending on when I'm free. Suaping replied to some of the questions while shoving the reporters to the door. He then waved his hand before he turned around and got back into the shop. The reporters were left dumbfounded outside the shop. Business hours are completely random? What kind of shop is this? The brown-haired young man who had bought the first dragon was right outside. He had a wretched-looking face when the reporters were gathered outside of Suaping's shop. He had been covertly lurking in the area because he wanted to find out what would happen. The shocking incidents that happened later had completely stupefied him. All of the pets were Class A. 10 Class A Vast Sky Thunderous Dragons appearing at the same time was a horrifying matter. He remembered how he had a chance to buy all of them, but he ran off because he feared that Suaping would ask for his pet back. If he hadn't run out, he might have been able to buy all the pets. The young man felt like vomiting blood when he thought about it. The only thing that made him feel slightly better was that, since the shop had sold that many Class A dragons at once, they were probably uninterested in taking back the one he bought. Therefore, he still had a chance to visit Suaping's shop later. Is it true? Damn it, who will possibly come to our shop in the future? This shop has been here for years. Why can't I remember a thing about it? It was never popular, how did it become so good all of a sudden? The Astral Pet Store was absolutely empty, except a few employees and their manager. The latter, who was a partly bald middle-aged man, looked terrible. The 10 vast sky thunderous dragons that had been shipped to Suo Ping's shop the day before had shocked the entire street. They felt a lot of pressure, being the other pet store on the street, so they reported the matter to HQ, which arranged for a B and vast sky thunderous dragon to be shipped to them overnight. He had intended to attract all the customers who had gotten word of the 10 dragons in the other shop. This could potentially bring them a massive profit. Little did he expect that all the dragons would be Class A pets. He had been crushed and then scrubbed against the ground. The manager felt like killing himself right then. Not just his shop, all the other pet shops in Wofet had been eclipsed and their business would be affected. His shop had obviously taken the greatest hit, being on the same street. It was almost a nuclear attack. The manager couldn't contain himself any longer and burst into an outrage. Damn it! We must do something, we can't just be waiting to die. Move! Move! Attract more customers on the street right now. What are you doing here? Contact HQ and talk to the PR department. Let's claim that the other shop sells and trains flawed pets. Go! He would lose his job if the show went down. Even if he was transferred to another shop, his position wouldn't be as high. All the employees were frightened by their boss' anger and quickly got to work. Soon, the employees of the Star's Pet Store peddled and appealed to the customers on the street again. Even though the same B and vast sky thunderous dragon wasn't as attractive as before, some customers were still attracted to it. Even though they were regretful for not having gotten their hands on a Class A pet, they were still happy to buy a lesser one. Some customers entered the shop soon after. Most of them had been to Suo Ping's shop. They then booed once they heard that the B and dragon would cost 500 million. The Class A dragons in the other shop were only sold for 400 million. Even the Fate State ones didn't go for more than $1 billion. Hey! The dragon is being sold for 500 million here? That's too crazy. The manager felt like his head was exploding as he heard the boos and complaints. That is just the market price. It was actually even several hundred million lower than the regular price. He might as well just quit and go home if he were to sell the pet for 400 million. He definitely thought that the other shop's prices were too low. He was trying to do business. He didn't know what the other shop was planning. Selling 10 Class A pets at such a low price was almost like a huge charity event. Even if it was meant to attract everyone's attention, it wouldn't be easy to earn the hundreds of billions that had already been lost. The manager could only cry in silence when he thought about his lunatic competitor, but he didn't have another choice. He had to try to talk sense into the customers, but everybody was still mocking and laughing at him. Boss, I came for my pet. Are you here? A clear voice said, then Phileas walked into Suo Ping's shop. He was slightly surprised, as all the reporters and the passers-by were talking about Class A dragons. Are they real? Yes. Suo Ping was cleaning the shop. He was going to close and start the training sessions. Seeing the young man arrive, he said, "Your green alligator has been trained." Really? Phileas was quite skeptical. Is it really possible to train a pet in a day? Without further ado, Suo Ping asked Joanna to take his pet out. That door will take you to the test room, you can give your pet a try. Feel free to use any skills without worrying about damages, as the walls are reinforced, said Suo Ping. Phileas looked at Joanna with a much more solemn expression. She then frowned, making him realize it was rude of him to stare at her, plus she was there with her pet. He lowered his gaze, only to see a pair of sharp and brutal eyes that were obviously showing dissatisfaction. They hadn't seen each other in a long time, yet its master didn't check it first. The green alligator was deeply heartbroken. Hey! Phileas instantly noticed that the green alligator definitely seemed to be much stronger. The vibe it released was more profound and better hidden. Although it had approached him, it seemed to be sneaking, ready to go on a rampage anytime. It does seem stronger, Phileas thought. Joanna turned around and left like a cloud after she finished arranging her pet's training. Phileas felt relieved and looked down at the green alligator. He thought for a moment and said to Suaping, "Boss, I'd like to test it. Be my guest." 10 minutes later, Phileas returned to the lobby. His eyes were glowing with excitement. He didn't see Suaping on his way out. He looked around, only to find that he couldn't sense anything behind the walls and could only give up. He then remembered that there was a pet assessment shop nearby, so he quickly went there. He found many people who were gathered outside of the establishment. Class A aptitude. A vast sky thunderous dragon. Phileas raised his eyebrows as he approached the place, listening to the topics being heatedly discussed by those present. His expression was quickly changed for shock after listening for a while. Phileas stopped one of the passers-by and asked, "Are you sure it was sold at the shop over there?" He also made a pointing gesture at Suaping's shop. "Of course. The Pixie Pet Store became famous today. Can you believe that they sold 10 Class A vast sky thunderous dragons in a row? Damn right. I'm still trying to process it. It feels like a dream. It has never happened before. I don't think this assessment shop has experienced anything like it before, haha." Everybody talked and laughed, obviously interested in the matter. Phileas was rather stunned. Did Suaping's shop sell 10 vast sky thunderous dragons with Class A aptitude this morning? Oh my god, what did I miss? Phileas suddenly thought of his green alligator. Could it be that there really was a master trainer in Suaping's shop? His heart pounded. He quickly squeezed through the crowd and paid for an assessment. A few minutes later. Wow! Exclamations burst out of the assessment shop again. All the people who were still present looked at the rolling pillar with shock. The readings had soared up to the purple area again. Was it possible that another pet with Class A aptitudes had been detected? Damn, what day is today? Another vast sky thunderous dragon? Didn't the shop only obtain 10 of them? Is this one from the old stockpile? Which lucky son of a *ch bought this? All kinds of exclamations burst out of the crowd. Phileas was quickly angered by the jealous remarks, but soon found that more than one person was cursing. He could only turn a deaf ear to them while he stared at the testing pillar. Soon, the readings in the purple area were gradually stabilized. Several minutes later, a rating appeared on the pillar, Class A. Underneath the rating was the image of the green alligator. The audience was shocked again, not expecting to see a real Class A pet again. However, it was no longer a vast sky thunderous dragon this time, but a green alligator. Phileas was stunned while he looked at the results, feeling like his head had gone blank. The young man was unable to wrap its head around it. Class A aptitude? How is it possible? Is there something wrong with the device? His green alligator only had a B aptitude in the past, but then it became A. That was a drastic improvement. Phileas felt somewhat dazed. He went for the assessment partly to find out the green alligator's current aptitude and partly to see if the strength the pet showed in the test room would be reflected in the results. Certain special drugs could significantly strengthen pets for a while, but they could bring about dire ramifications. Such drugs could be detected in an assessment. Most dangerous and flawed training methods would leave detectable sequelae that could lower the rating. Even if the green alligator was 10 times stronger than its peers, its aptitude would be lowered if it had taken any drugs. The comprehensive conclusion was based on information drawn from many aspects. The A rating meant that his pet had truly been strengthened, without any hidden flaws. It had truly been strengthened thanks to the training. Phileas was too shocked to speak. He had only paid 100 million to upgrade his battle pet to Class A. That was unbelievable. Another one. Fortunately, this isn't a vast sky thunderous dragon. In another corner of the shop, Cleo and her cousin Lily were both amazed at the rating on the pillar. The pillar seemed to be malfunctioning, as A ratings were all it manifested that day. This pet can't be from the shop over there, right? Cleo thought and became tempted. She instantly asked for the customer's file and then greeted him. "Hello." Phileas was still stunned when Cleo approached him. She was slightly surprised and confused when she saw Phileas' look, attire, and especially the emblem at the end of his sleeve. "Hey? Who might you be?" "I'm the manager of this shop," replied Cleo casually. "You must be from the Moreno family. Is this battle pet yours? Are you interested in selling it? I can purchase it for more than the going market price. This is my card." She offered a purple and gold card. The card alone was worth tens of thousands of astral coins. Phileas's pupils contracted the moment he saw the card, as it was only used by members of the rein family. "Hello, I'm Phileas." He accepted the card and spoke with a somewhat fearful tone. The rein family were the gods of Rhea. All the other forces had to lower their heads in front of that family. "How about it? Do you plan to sell it?" asked Cleo straightforwardly. Phileas hesitated and said, "Well, I'm sorry, but this little guy and I have been together for a long time and we're deeply bonded." Cleo instantly knew it was a no, the deep bond was just an excuse. Her keen mind could also glean that he planned to participate in the upcoming pet contest, all to bring hope to the declining Moreno family. "Feel free to contact me if you ever decide to sell it," said Cleo with a smile. Phileas nodded quickly. Phileas finally took a breath of relief after walking out of the assessment shop. Confronting someone from the Ryan family was too stressful, his family could be affected if he ever pissed her off. "I must find Boss Sue immediately. If he trains my pets every day, won't they all get Class A aptitudes? If so, I can easily win the pet contest." Phileas became excited as he rushed back to Suaping's shop. "Boss." Phileas saw Suaping the moment he entered the lobby. He quickly called out to him, "Boss, I didn't see you, so I took a walk outside. I was hoping you would train more pets of mine. Here they are." He didn't say that he had gone to the assessment shop, fearing that Suaping would be angered due to his expertise being questioned. Of course, he had indeed suspected Suaping's expertise a moment earlier. "Okay." Suaping wasn't too enthused to see Phileas. He said, "You're late. The pet spots in this shop are already full. Come again tomorrow if you want to have your pets trained." "What?" Phileas was stunned by the reply. He asked with widened eyes, "They're full?" "Yes. There are no more openings left," said Suaping casually. Phileas was dumbfounded. He certainly wouldn't accept that. He quickly replied, "Boss, I can pay more money. How about 200 million, no, 1 billion for each pet?" Suaping raised his eyebrows and looked at him, realizing that the guy had surely gone to have his pet assessed. He said angrily, "This isn't about money. Besides, you think you can hire me to do your bidding by paying a mere billion?" Phileas was rendered speechless, but he knew that Suaping was right. To improve a B green alligator to the A level was something that even a 4-starred master trainer was unable to do. It might even be the work of a grandmaster. "Boss, I know this isn't about money. Can you just do me this favor?" Phileas instantly adopted a different approach and tried to appeal to Suaping's sympathy. "I'm about to participate in the pet contest. If you train my pets, I will surely distinguish myself in the contest. I will tell everybody that my pets were trained in your shop during the award ceremony. It can work as a great for you. It's your contest." "Why should I care?" snapped Suaping. "Also, I have other people who can advertise for me." Phileas was starting to feel anxious after being refused by Suaping. He couldn't help but add, "Boss, I'm begging you. What can I do so that you can help me train my pets?" He couldn't be any more regretful. Had he known the effects, he would have left his main pet for training instead of the green alligator he wasn't planning on using. "No need to beg me, and it's useless even if you do," Suaping said indifferently. "If you want to train your pets, come early tomorrow." Stunned, Phileas asked in delight, "Really? You're willing to train my pets as long as I wait in line?" "As long as you pay the money," why wouldn't I? Yes, sure, I'll definitely pay you. In fact, I can give you the money in advance right now, that's unnecessary. This shop doesn't accept down payments. All money must be paid up front. No appointments, no defaults, said Suaping coldly. Phileas was quite confused. Suaping ignored him and left. Another person entered the shop at this moment and saw Suaping turning around. She said with glittering eyes, "Boss Su." Suaping turned back, only to find it was Mia. "You're back?" "Yes." Mia said with a smile, "Someone just told me that you sold 10 Class A Vast Sky Thunderous Dragons. Is this true?" Suaping nodded. "Yes." Phileas's pupils contracted when Suaping personally admitted it. He regretted his decision the day prior even more. "Boss Su, can you sell me one?" When Suaping admitted it, Mia's eyes glowed even more brightly. She said, "Just name your price. I'll try my best to raise the sum and give it to you." "You didn't catch any?" Suaping asked back. However, she heard news about the 10 Class A dragons as she was making her way over to Suaping's shop to have her pets trained. Class A. That was something that she could only dream about. Buying a Class A pet would have been much easier and less time-consuming than training one. Still, it would definitely cost more money. "All the Vast Sky Thunderous Dragons I caught were sold out," said Suaping. "If you have one, you may consider training it. After all, improving it to Class A isn't that hard." Phileas was speechless. "Do you even hear what you're saying? Improving a pet to Class A isn't that hard? Just like how a certain big shot had said that making 10 billion was just a small goal?" Mia was quite shocked, too. She couldn't help but ask, "Boss Su, you sold all the dragons you caught?" "Yes." "All of them?" Mia's eyes widened. She had seen 3 of Suaping's dragons when they last met. Could it be that all 3 had Class A aptitudes? She couldn't have felt more regretful. She would have had a chance to buy one if she would have returned to his shop right away, but she missed the chance. She was rather angry with herself. That was all because of her being overconfident. How could a keen-eyed pet store owner catch random beasts? Why didn't I think of this earlier? But regretting it was pointless. Mia looked at Suaping and asked, "Boss, when are you going to the Rumbling Thunder continent again?" She wanted to go with him. Missing a chance could be due to carelessness, but missing it again would be downright stupid. Suaping shook his head and said, "I don't plan to go there for the time being. Maybe later." What Suaping said made Mia think he was unwilling to reveal his schedule. She secretly heaved a sigh, but she understood that it was dangerous to expose one's schedule to a complete stranger. "Do you have other Class A pets in your shop, boss?" "Not for now." Suaping didn't know what to say about her stubbornness. "Don't you have a Vast Sky Thunderous Dragon? Even if it wasn't born with Class A aptitude, it can be trained to reach it. Why do you insist on buying a Class A pet? It can be trained to that level." Mia was stunned. "As long as you have enough money," said Suaping, "it just so happens that this shop has just begun to offer the king-level professional training today. One training session will cost 10 billion. Your pet's aptitude is guaranteed to reach Class A. Do you have the money? For real?" Mia gazed at him and suddenly exclaimed in delight, "I want to train it. As for 10 billion, I have the money." She didn't have so much cash in hand, but she could borrow it. She thought of a certain person. Suaping nodded and said, "Everything is fine as long as you have the money. Prepare it and come back early tomorrow. There are no more openings today." Mia was about to take out her Vast Sky Thunderous Dragon, but was then dumbfounded by what Suaping had just said. She had previously been able to train however many pets she wanted in Suaping's shop, but now she had to wait for openings the next day? Phileas was quite relieved. He looked at Mia sympathetically when he noticed how Suaping treated such a gorgeous woman exactly like he treated him. "I'll come early tomorrow morning then," said Phileas. Mia noticed Phileas and heard what he said. She didn't know what to say. It seemed that she wasn't the only one who wanted Suaping to train their pets. Has the shop become this popular in a single day? It did make sense. Considering the training results from the shop, and since it had sold 10 Class A Vast Sky Thunderous Dragons in a single day, it was only natural that the shop would become popular. She felt frustrated. She would have returned sooner had she known this. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow morning. Mia heaved a sigh inwardly while offering a graceful smile to Suaping on the surface. Suaping nodded. Once he saw the two customers off, Suaping closed the shop, then found Tang Ruyan and Zhong Lingtong in the language school. How'd it go? Have you picked it up? We've learned about 80% of the common tongue, except for the uncommon words. Both Tang Ruyan and Zhong Lingtong were happy to see Suaping. Suaping nodded. He spoke in the common tongue to test them. Seeing how they answered fluently, he said, "Keep on learning, and return to the shop to help me tomorrow." The large number of customers called for assistance. Tang Ruyan asked in surprise, "Do we have many customers?" "More than many." "Got it. I'll work harder." "Me too." Zhong Lingtong added cutely. Suaping nodded, said his goodbyes and returned to his shop. He closed the door and ignored the reporters who tried to swarm in. That was a completely new batch of reporters. He wouldn't have time to do anything else if he took interviews every time. Once inside the shop, Suaping checked the energy revenue made in the day. They were more than 380 million. He had earned more than 300 million energy points in a single day, which meant 30 billion astral coins. Cleo's professional training had produced 10 billion, the 10 Vast Sky Thunderous Dragons were sold for 60 billion, and the normal training for the other customers raised a sum of more than 20 billion. However, there was still a lot of work to do. The pets had to be trained in different batches, and the professional training would take days. Even if he took the pet every time he trained others, it would be hard to improve its aptitude to a high level simply by exposure to deadly experiences. He also had to use herbs and special environments to strengthen them. Alternatively, he could simply impart knowledge to the pet. If he shared some of the power of laws with the pet, its combat ability would probably soar immediately, and its aptitude would soon reach a high level. However, the power of laws was so precious that Suaping preferred not to use it unless it was the only option. "I should eat the Thunder Ocean fruit first." Without further ado, Suaping found the Thunder Ocean fruit in his storage. It was a purple fruit enveloped by lightning. It also had protruding patterns that looked like scars. "I hope I can understand the power of laws," Suaping thought. The fruit only promised an increase in the odds of a new understanding, but he had never been a lucky guy. He simply hoped that the 80 million energy points he spent on it weren't a complete waste. He quickly chewed the fruit and swallowed. As he chewed the fruit, he felt how countless lightning bolts were bouncing inside his mouth. Had it not been for his high resistance, he would have been paralyzed or even blown up by the lightning. The bouncing lightning bolts ran amok inside his mouth like snakes. Suaping had the strange feeling that the lightning bolts were alive. He sat cross-legged and closed his eyes to chew and then swallow the lightning bolts, bit by bit. The lightning bolts slithered inside his body like perky loaches. Suaping felt that all his cells and blood were being activated. He had an epiphany at that moment. So, lightning didn't just mean destruction, it could also bring forth new life. New life from destruction. Some of the bolts roamed all the way up and reached his brain while he was in a trance. Then, his head felt as if it were exploding. Countless jumping lightning bolts surfaced in his memory and gathered in the most profound ocean. That ocean was flooded with lightning. The lightning bolts were either exploding, rumbling, vanishing, or circulating. They were boundless and had various shapes. So, the lightning bolts had that many variations. Suaping's mind was gradually absorbed by those concepts. A long while later, Suaping opened his eyes. Real bolts of lightning jumped out. Fizz, fizz. There was a lightning bolt in Suo Ping's palm, bouncing and shrieking like a bird. The lightning flew away from his palm and floated in front of him, without disappearing. The lightning emitted a special aura, which was the power of laws. While the energy from the lightning was weak, the power of laws was making space tremble, as if it could tear apart the primary space with ease. This lightning is alive. Suo Ping gradually understood as he observed and thought, infinite circulations, and birth from death, like the God who created the world. Let me just call you the God of lightning's law. The lightning seemed to hum and tremble after receiving a name. The power of laws that it released was even more profound. Suo Ping also emerged from his meditative state. He knew that he didn't really comprehend and grasp that law until he gave it the right name. Naming it incorrectly would mean that he hadn't really understood the law properly, which could then gradually disappear in the end. Suo Ping raised his eyebrows and spread out his senses. The shop would block the other people's probing, but not Suo Ping's perception. He saw a young man wearing a blood-stained armor outside the shop. He was wounded, and was knocking at the door anxiously. Hey! Suo Ping quickly recognized him. It was one of the two young men who had rented the little skeleton earlier. He quickly changed his expression and searched for the little skeleton, only to find that the young man didn't have it. Shua! Suo Ping rose quickly and rushed to open the door. Abbot, the young man outside, was quite shocked. He was about to talk after seeing Suo Ping open the shop, only to find that the boss eyes were even more cold and horrifying than those of the wild vast sky thunderous dragons on the rumbling thunder continent. "Be boss, not good. Someone took the pet you rented us," said Abbot quickly after overcoming his momentary shock. "Someone robbed you? Where?" Suo Ping looked at Abbot with eyes that were as sharp as sabers. Abbot didn't dare to look Suo Ping in the eye. He was quite shocked. He detected that Suo Ping was an ocean state warrior, but was still awed by him, even though the former had explored and hunted on many planets. Outside the city, Abbot focused on the matter at hand and quickly said, "We were on our way back to return your pet. Our captain even planned to come and thank you in person. But then we came across a bunch of people on the outskirts. They found that your pet was extraordinary after checking it with some sort of device, then forcefully took it from us." Noticing that Suo Ping was becoming grimmer by the second, he quickly added, "We tried to stop them, this is why I have all these wounds. But they had two fate state experts. Our captain was unable to beat them." Outside the city, Suo Ping's eyes were cold as he thought. He closed his eyes, choosing not to yell at the guy. Soon after, he managed to vaguely locate the little skeleton through their bond. Judging from the power of the link, it was indeed in the suburbs. "Lead the way," said Suo Ping coldly. In the meantime, he summoned the dark dragon hound, the inferno dragon and other pets from the nursing pens and then sent them to his contract space. Abbot was stunned. He quickly said, "Two of them are fate state warriors. Do you want to ask someone for help? If we go there alone, I asked you to lead the way." Lightning glowed in Suo Ping's eyes, which were strong enough to pierce through the mind. Abbot was so intimidated that his heart raced beyond control. There was disbelief in his eyes, thinking that Suo Ping wasn't an ocean state but an actual fate state expert. The daunting aura made him tremble and all his pores were constricted. He would not dare infuriate Suo Ping, so he quickly nodded and ran off. Suo Ping closed the door and looked at the lightning rat underneath the statue. Seeing that it was looking at him, he said, "Watch over the shop for me." The lightning rat tilted its head in confusion and watched Suo Ping walk away. There was deep thoughtfulness in its tiny eyes. In the suburbs of Wofet City the scenery wasn't bad, it had green forests and fresh air everywhere. This way, Abbot led the way. He used his special movement technique and flew like an agile bird. He looked back and his eyeballs almost popped out. He found that Suo Ping was only a few meters behind him while moving in a rock-steady manner. It wasn't any body movement technique, just the boost of astral power. How could he be so fast without using any body movement technique? Abbot was appalled. What is this man's cultivation? Here we are. Sui Ping's eyes were deep and cold. He could already sense with clarity where the little skeleton was, the distance between them was within the enforced summoning range. Without hesitation, Sui Ping summoned the pet via the contract. But very soon, the power of summoning failed and disappeared. Sui Ping's face had a slight change of expression. It meant that the little skeleton was either fighting, or was being detained by something. A Fate State battle pet warrior should be no match for him. Sui Ping's face became darker and darker. The clarity of their bond improved as he got closer. He sensed the little skeleton was somewhat anxious, but then it gradually calmed down after detecting him. Don't be scared. I'm on my way. Sui Ping sent a telepathic message via the contract. He looked at Abbott, who was at the moment flying up and down like a bee, and simply dashed forward while grabbing the ladder by the shoulder. Whoosh! Flash! Sui Ping tore space open and flashed to appear tens of thousands of meters away. He then flashed consecutively after that. Abbott was both shocked and frightened. No wonder Sui Ping had dared to go there with him in tow, without worrying about whether it was a trap. As it turned out, the boss was hiding his cultivation and was at the Fate State. Why else would he be bold enough to go there on his own to fight two Fate State experts? In an empty forest, several pits near the forest had been destroyed. Rock spikes and ash from fires could be found on the ground. Tisk, tisk. Based on the readings, this little is very likely a Class A pet if assessed. It might even be a super rare Class S pet. There was a young man in the field, standing next to a cage imprisoning a white skeleton. That cage was surrounded by runes and would unleash flames when the skeleton touched it. Its fingers would be burned. The flames were quite unusual. They burned the fingers even though they weren't inflammable. The skeleton would then have to break its fingers to isolate and evade the flames. Fortunately, broken bones could be regenerated at the cost of some of its energy. It's merely in the advanced phase of the 9th rank, and yet it has such extraordinary energy waves. It's unbelievable. This is definitely a super rare pet on the market. A young girl exclaimed, if it's improved and reaches the ocean state, it'll probably win a good prize in the Universal Pet Contest. Hee. Let's assess it later and find out more about its bloodline. It would be a gift for you, Ms. Denise, if it has good upper limits, said the young man. He was a handsome, purple-haired man. The girl named Denise rolled her eyes and chuckled and said, would you really surrender this pet to me if it was indeed a rare pet with a star state bloodline? The young man replied, with affection in his eyes, of course. A minor pet can't compare to you, Ms. Denise. Denise covered her mouth and giggled after hearing his response. Once he saw she was giggling, the young man narrowed his eyes and looked at the young man on his opposite side, before he said casually, get the hell out of here while I'm not in the mood for killing. A brawny middle-aged man begged on the opposite side, Prince Randall, this isn't our pet, we only rented it. If you're interested in one of our own, we would happily hand it over to you. But we really can't give you this one. Two Fate State pets stood behind him. He was also in fusion mode, with purple tattoos on his face and hands in the shape of claws. He was unleashing a daunting Fate State aura. However, he could only implore at this moment. Idiot! The young man said coldly, if it's not yours, why are you still badgering me? This pet is lucky to be appreciated by Ms. Denise, it will make greater achievements with her. It would be a waste if it remained as a cheap pet for rent for the rest of its life. Prince Randall, we won't be able to explain the matter to the owner if we give the pet to you, said an old man who had turned into an eagle. He stood next to the middle-aged man. Hey? Who are you? Do you think you deserve to talk to me? Said the young man with aggression on his face. There's nothing I can't take on this planet. Uncle Lay, take their heads and feed them to my tiger. Yes, sir, an old man answered casually and stepped out. He instantly unleashed the horrifying scent of a peak Fate State warrior. Behind it, an enormous vast sky thunderous dragon stepped out and merged with him. Lightning constitution, extreme flash. The old man mumbled with lightning surfacing on his body and enveloping it with armor. Everybody who was standing on the old man's opposite side looked appalled when they saw the change. They didn't expect that a servant of the Rein family could be that strong. In the next moment, the old man dashed over and approached the brawny middle-aged man, almost in the blink of an eye. Secret technique, rumbling thunder punch. The old man suddenly extended his fist where thousands of brilliant lightning bolts were gathered as if lightning charges were attracted from the void. He pushed them out like a dazzling ball. The brawny middle-aged man's face changed as he unleashed his astral power to resist. Time seemed to have slowed down at the critical moment, then someone made a sudden appearance right above the old man. The old man's pupils were slightly constricted, he then turned his head to look up. What he saw was nothing but a quickly expanding shoe. After a loud bam, the shoe kissed the old man's face. In the next moment, his neck was broken, making a noisy crack, and his body rushed to the ground, causing an earthquake in the woods. A gigantic crater appeared after the attack. The old man who had shown a lightning constitution and used a powerful fusion technique had already fallen apart, his brains flowing everywhere. In front of his corpse stood a man with black hair and black eyes who was releasing a daunting killing intent. The man was a peak fate state expert who had a lightning constitution. He used to be quite strong in his level, otherwise he wouldn't have been chosen as Randall's bodyguard. Denise was also surprised, she sized Sua Ping up. In the meantime, the expressions of the two old men next to her also changed, becoming extremely solemn. They stepped forward and approached their lady, ready to protect her. "Who are you?" Randall snapped back from the shock and then wore a grim expression. He secretly took out a spatial treasure, planning to teleport himself away and send out a help signal. Sua Ping didn't answer. He looked at the cage used to confine the little skeleton. The latter extended its hand at him when he arrived, but its fingers were again set ablaze after touching the cage. The little skeleton quickly chose to sever the bones because of the pain and then moved its hand back. Sua Ping saw how the little skeleton was injured, his eyes became even deeper and darker, like a starless sky. He looked up at the young man who had just talked and said, word for word, "Open the cage." Whoosh! It wasn't until then that Abbott had finally caught up to Sua Ping. Sua Ping had left him behind earlier, flashing consecutively to reach his destination. Randall realized what was going on when he saw Abbott. He sneered and said, "Is he your reinforcement? You want this pet? This cage is the most advanced titanium trap in the Federation. Nobody below the Federation." Sua Ping suddenly pointed his finger before he could finish, there was coldness surging out of his eyes. After a bam, a dim and grey sword aura dashed out and tore space open, the cage fell to pieces the moment it struck. Whoosh! The little skeleton flashed toward Sua Ping and looked up at him. "Hey!" The sudden explosion surprised Randall, Denise, and the guards. Their eyes almost popped out when they saw the broken cage. Randall's mouth was slightly open due to shock, he wasn't able to finish his sentence. Only Star State experts would have been able to break the titanium trap, which was designed to confine any beast below the Star State, except for the super rare special pets. Even so, this stranger broke the cage by simply pointing his finger. Is he, a Star State warrior? Randall was getting scared. He swallowed the brutal declarations he was planning to say and then gnashed his teeth. "I'm from the main branch of the Ryans. My grandfather is O'Neill Ryan. I now see you're a Star State expert, please forgive my impudence today. Why don't we forget what happened today?" Abbott, as well as the middle-aged captain and his teammates, looked at the black-haired young man in shock. "Is that guy, at the Star State?" He was an expert able to travel through the universe without the need of a vessel, and was as strong as an interstellar spaceship. He couldn't be bound to any planet. Forget what happened today. Sua Ping rolled his eyes indifferently and said, "I'll spare you if you remain alive after this attack." Randall's face changed upon hearing that. He exclaimed, "Senior, don't be too outrageous. My grandfather is a star state expert too. There will be no place for you on this planet if you kill me, not even in the entire Zero-Prun solar system. Rot in hell. Without further ado, Suaping snapped his finger. Boom. Space trembled after the snap of his fingers. The secondary space instantly fell apart and two streams made by the power of laws flew out. They approached Randall in the blink of an eye. Bang! A purple yet transparent energy shield appeared in front of Randall. There were complicated energy circuits covering it. However, the shield fell apart the moment it appeared. Then, the power of laws pierced through completely unimpeded. Randall was appalled. He didn't realize what was going on until the shield appeared. Fortunately, he had already taken out a life-saving treasure, which was a dragon-shaped ring. He then squeezed the ring. Space around him cracked, and his body was absorbed into that space breach by a powerful attraction force. At the same time, an intimidating punch which was releasing the powerful aura of laws was about to connect. However, before the fist even reached its target, the lightning disappeared into Randall's body and exploded, also tearing up the fist that had yet to take shape. A boom resounded, then the dark secondary space was broken. The cracked space was quickly healed, squeezing out the torn flesh which fell all over the ground. There was nothing but silence. Everybody behind Suaping was so shocked that their eyes were as wide as saucers, they could hardly calm themselves down. The prince of the Rein family, the rulers of that planet, had died just like that. Even his body had been completely ruined. The nearby Denise soon showed an expression of shock, clearly not expecting that Randall would fail to escape even after using the star state treasure his family had given him. It was brutal. The two old men by Denise were pale-faced. Already determined to fight earlier, but then realized they would be as flimsy as paper if they countered Suaping's attacks which contained the power of laws. The gap between the star state and the fate state was like that between the fourth dimension and the third dimension. You're next. Suaping indifferently looked at them. Denise, both shocked and infuriated, said, "Do you know who you just killed?" He was from the main branch of the Rein family, one of the three most talented individuals in his generation. He had been purposefully trained to reach the star state and lead the family in the future. Not deigning to say a word, Suaping simply raised his hand. The blood of the two old men felt freezing cold upon seeing that Suaping was about to snap his fingers again. One of them quickly said, "Senior, we didn't mean to offend you. We belong to the Aran planet's Tyson family. Our lady is a student of the Humia Academy. Please forgive us for our offense today. Senior, for the sake of the Humia Academy, please forgive us for our wrongdoings today. What do you say?" Denise felt less frightened after listening to what they said, remembering she was a student of one of the 5 best academies. She felt proud again and said, "Indeed. You've killed a descendant of the Rein family and pissed them off. Even if you don't care about the Ryans, the Humia Academy has influence all over Sylvie and will hunt you down if you do anything to me. Not even the leader of the Rein family would dare to do anything to me." The more she talked, the more confident and calm she became. "Is that so?" Suaping looked at her indifferently as he replied, "I'll give you a chance to apologize to my pet." Denise was dazed by this, and then looked at him in disbelief. "Did you just ask me to apologize to your pet? You must be joking. It's just an animal, or rather, a tool for battle. You're asking me to apologize to a tool?" The two old men were at a loss for words, feeling that Suaping's demand was too outrageous. "An animal," Suaping said to himself. His cold eyes suddenly became calm. But the next moment, he suddenly made a jerking motion and unleashed an astonishing aura. The ground below his feet cracked. He tore into the secondary space and approached his last 3 enemies at the highest speed. "You!" The two old men realized what was going on in shock. They were about to freeze space and use secret techniques, but Suaping's hands had already left the dark secondary space and touched their faces. Clang! Clang! Suo Ping was so strong that the two old men's skulls were squished the moment he exerted his strength. Then, he stood in front of Denise with their bodies in his hands. He looked down at her while being as straight as a spear, blocking all the rays of light. Denise was stupefied. It all happened too fast. She had thought at first that she had intimidated him and was quite proud of it when Suo Ping retracted his killing aura. Then, Suo Ping rushed at them with an even more horrifying killing aura. The two old men protecting her had been killed before they could put up any resistance. They were carefully selected fate state experts. At this moment, while looking at the tall man in front of her, especially his eyes, staring down at her, Denise was unable to think of anything, just as if her head would have been blasted by a lightning strike. The cold, emotionless, and disdaining eyes were forever etched in her pupils. Bang! Suo Ping raised his hand and made a slapping motion. The power of the three laws was gathered on his fingertips, before he pushed it out like the sun. After several explosions, the defensive treasures all over Denise were shredded by the power of laws. Among the three powers, the god of lightning's law was surprisingly sharp. Denise realized what was going on and was about to beg for mercy in a fit of panic. But her head had already been shattered, blood was gushing out profusely. Abbott and the others were so shocked that their eyeballs had almost popped out. The girl had stated that she was from the Humia Academy, yet Suo Ping had still dared to kill her? The Humia Academy was too influential and important. Killing any student of the 5 best academies would lead to dire consequences, unless said student would have offended a Star Lord. Suo Ping looked at his hands, still unsullied by all the bloodshed. He resumed his calmness and nonchalant behavior. While ignoring the petite, headless, and spasming body which fell in front of him, he approached the little skeleton and smiled. "Let's go home." The little skeleton raised its head and looked at him, nodding its head. They had been worried whether or not Suo Ping would kill them to keep their mouths shut. However, Suo Ping didn't seem to care the least bit about them knowing. Well. Right when Suo Ping was about to leave, the brawny middle-aged man quickly said, "You must be the boss who rented your pet to Abbott." "I can only thank you, it was of great help and we truly appreciate it. We came here partly to return it to you, and partly to give you more money." "That won't be unnecessary," Suo Ping casually responded, "you can come to my shop when you're free. Other fine pets will be available later on, you can buy some if you want." "Hey!" They were dumbfounded by such a response. Suo Ping had just killed 2 people, yet he wanted to continue doing business. One of the victims was from the main branch of the Rein family, and the other was a student from the Humia Academy. Why was he still not running? The explorers were even more astounded by his fearless attitude. The only possible explanation was that Suo Ping had greater and more powerful trump cards. That was why he was fearless. Could any guy who advanced into the Star State be a fool? Their awe went through the roof as they thought about that. The middle-aged man said respectfully, "We will surely pay you a visit. Thank you for helping us today, Senior." "That's all right. I'm just here to pick up my friend." The middle-aged man had a worried face as he looked at the corpses. He knew they would be affected by the event, even though Suo Ping was the one who had actually killed them. The people behind the victims would unleash their wrath without restraint. "Senior, these are the items they left." The middle-aged man raised his hand, and a few treasures flew into his palm. He was rather tempted by them, but he curbed his greed and gave them to Suo Ping. The latter glanced at the items. He wasn't planning on picking them up earlier, mainly because he wasn't short of anything. However, it wouldn't hurt to accept the items at this point. He had already killed those people anyway, it wouldn't make a difference whether or not he took the items. "You should find shelter in case there are repercussions," said Suo Ping casually after accepting the items. The middle-aged man became alarmed, then nodded respectfully. He had truly made up his mind to leave Ria right after Suo Ping left. The wrath of the Ryan family was too much for them to take. As for the Humia Academy, that was easier. They had nothing to do with those deaths, although they had observed the whole thing, there would be no punishment due for their actions. So Ping simply left with the little skeleton after accepting the items. The explorers began to breathe heavily when he left, as if a huge rock would have been removed from their hearts. This is unbelievable. The shop you went to is being run by a Star State expert. Oh my god! An honorable Star State expert is working as a small shop owner. There are too many experts in this world who like to keep a low profile. Let's avoid being cocky on our future trips in case we piss off any big shot that happens to be traveling incognito. Captain, should we leave Rhea? The middle-aged man withdrew his gaze and heaved a sigh. Yes, we must. Make the preparations right now. Ajur, buy tickets for us right now. So Ping returned to his shop soon after. The whole thing was just a minor incident in his perspective. He didn't care too much about either the Ryan family or the Humia Academy. He believed he could take care of the Ryan family on his own. As for the Humia Academy, he didn't think it would decide to wage war against him for just one student. If they didn't choose violence against him, he could always hide in his shop until he reached the Star State. Those two people seemed to be from powerful backgrounds. I wonder what they left behind. So Ping glanced at the items in his hand. He had noticed that some of the items were for storage purposes when the middle-aged man handed them to him. He easily recognized the patterns on the items. He had learned formations from Joanna for a while anyway, he could still recognize them, even though he couldn't make any. Hey? They're locked? So Ping found it was impossible to open the items. He instantly found Joanna in the shop and asked, "Can you crack the locks on these items?" Joanna opened her eyes and looked at the objects. "Where did you get them? The blood is quite fresh. Did you kill their owners?" "Yes, I just did." So Ping nodded. He sounded like he had just killed some chickens. Joanna was speechless. She knew that nothing good would happen after So Ping left the shop. He wasn't a tame and obedient guy, at all. "Let me take a look." So Ping gave one of the items to her. Divine fire popped from Joanna's fingers and vaporized the locks set on the item, but she controlled it neatly without damaging the item itself. "It's just a minor lock," Joanna remarked casually after a few quick glances, then she quickly wove a pattern before she patted it over the item. Very soon, the item clicked. Joanna threw the item back to So Ping and cracked the other items in the same way. So Ping accepted the item, his senses then entered the storage item without meeting any obstacles. The first item was a bracelet which contained an enormous space. There was a hill of clothes by a corner of the space. There were luxurious dresses, shoes, lingerie, hairbands, and other women's decorations. All that mound of clothing and accessories had been loaded in a super closet in order. There were all kinds of secret treasures, but they only emitted the energy waves of the void state. Fate state treasures had been placed separately. There was another corner where glowing blue crystals had been piled up. The crystals emanated a dense and pure astral power. So Ping was slightly surprised, as the crystals contained nothing but astral power. They looked like compressed and refined astral power. Are they training resources? So Ping intended to investigate them later. There was miscellaneous stuff gathered in another corner, including a special glittering horn, something that looked like a beautiful spiky coral, and several maps. So Ping suddenly noticed a blue card that was kept separately in a rather obvious place. He sent out a thought. The card quickly flew out of the storage space in his hand. The Humia Academy. So Ping was surprised to see the words on the card. He focused his attention to see more detail, and a piece of introductory information flooded into his head. He realized it was a student card of the Humia Academy. No wonder it was kept in the most obvious place. It was probably more convenient to be taken out this way. There was also a lock inside the card. Behind the lock was the feeble aura left by Denise whom So Ping had killed. There were many places inside the academy where the students' identities had to be confirmed with the cards as well as the aura imbued in them. So Ping raised his eyes and asked Joanna, "Can you crack this lock?" Joanna was already used to the odd jobs Suaping gave her. She accepted the item and frowned. It's slightly complicated. Slightly. Suaping was surprised. The student cards of the Humia Academy, one of the 5 best academies, were so important that the locks they used couldn't be bad. Joanna replied casually, it was made by human beings anyway. You're just juveniles in terms of formations. With that, she quickly gathered divine light on her fingertips and drew a vintage and sophisticated formation. The lock on the student card was instantly destroyed. The aura saved behind the lock drifted out and vanished in the air. Joanna gave the card back to Suaping and said, it is now ownerless. Suaping checked it and found that it did become an empty card. He casually tossed it into the system space. It was useless to him at the moment, but it might be useful later. Then, Suaping examined the other storage items one by one. He also found some astral crystals mixed in the 2 old men's items, but they weren't as many. Together, they would only have about 1/5 of what the girl had. It wasn't hard to imagine her position and privileges. She was only a Fate State warrior, still, her resources were multiple times superior to resources than the Fate State men did. There were also astral crystals in the young man's storage item, they were about half of what the girl had. Apart from them, there were male clothes, secret treasures and miscellaneous stuff. To Suaping's surprise, there were some female clothes next to the male ones. Plus, their sizes were quite similar. Is the guy actually a drag queen? What a shame. Suaping shook his head and collected the secret treasures. Then, he searched for information about the blue crystals with the Lord badge and easily found what he wanted. They were indeed training resources. The astral crystals were natural crystals which contain astral power. They had 5 levels, namely green, blue, purple, red, and golden. The higher level astral crystals were much rarer, the quantity and purity of the astral power contained in them were significantly higher, too. Most battle pet warriors ranging from the Ocean State and the Fate State trained with blue astral crystals. Those who were poor even used green astral crystals. They're that expensive? One of them is worth 100,000? Suaping looked for the pricing, only to be shocked. 1 blue astral crystal would cost 100,000 astral crystals. 10 of them would equate to 1 million. The purple astral crystals were even more expensive. They went for 1 million apiece. Suaping remembered the girl's hill of astral crystals. There had to be hundreds of thousands of astral crystals in it, if not millions. It is true that every genius is made of resources, Suaping secretly remarked. Very soon, all the 3 laws were transferred to the little skeleton's head. Property, pet of the demon family level, upper position of the 9th rank, combat strength, 183.2 aptitude, ultra low level talent skills, low level agility talent, low level strength talent, mid level acceleration talent, bloodline skills, bone demon, eternal revenant, descent of the bone king laws under control, annihilation, boom, god of lightning skills, regeneration, undead enslaving, advanced saber play, puppetry, door to the netherworld, nightmare space, bone proclivity. 183 points of combat ability. Suaping was quite surprised. Not only had its combat ability surpassed the 100 mark, it was almost doubled its previous reading. The lowest combat ability of the Star State was 100 points, while that of a Star Lord was 1,000 points. The little skeleton had only grasped 3 more laws and 2 more talents, and yet, the resulting combat ability soared dramatically. If it mastered more laws, wouldn't it become as strong as a Star Lord? There was also the matter of the skeleton's body, which was extremely weak and was holding it back. If it were in the Ocean State, its combat ability would have probably risen above 200 points. It's only in the upper position of the 9th rank but is already as strong as a Star State beast. Still, its aptitude is only considered ultra-low? Suaping's eyes flashed, feeling the harshness of the system again. However, considering the little skeleton's new combat ability, it could have escaped on its own if it were put in a cage again. The cage was indeed special and was able to even confine peak fate state beasts, but was still vulnerable in front of the power of laws. Suaping taught the god of lightning's law to the dark dragon hound, the inferno dragon and the purple python while petting the little skeleton. The dark dragon hound and the inferno dragon's combat ability had been increased by 60 points, which gave Suaping a deeper understanding of the power of laws. One law could increase combat abilities by 60 points. He hadn't tested whether a better law could lead to a higher increase in combat ability, but his guess was that it would. He also realized that the further addition of laws would expand the increase of combat ability. For instance, their combat ability might be increased by 70 or even 80 points if they grasped a fourth law. After all, one more law would translate to double combat ability. If the new law worked with or even combined with the old laws, the power they could unleash wouldn't simply be that of them combined. I could finish the professional training immediately if I impart knowledge to the pets being trained. Suaping thought quickly. However, it wasn't easy for him to figure out the laws, and he would rather not teach them to the customer's pets easily. It has an ultra-high aptitude, yet it still fails to make it into the Chaos Multiverse ranking. Suaping looked at the purple python's aptitude and found they had risen from ultra-middle to ultra-high, and that its combat ability had been increased by 40 points. Suaping wasn't sure what to make of that. As it turned out, the bottleneck to overcome the decimal point behind 99 would produce 20 points of combat ability. That was not what he hoped for, at all. Suaping shook his head, unwilling to stay any longer. He chose a dangerous place just like before, leading the little skeleton as well as a few customers' pets there. He fought his way through the dangerous site. Suaping had taken frequent action during training, as the place had plenty of star state beasts. Even god warriors could perish there. Suaping fought the star state beasts with the god of lightning's law. It was quite a mysterious law. It could both heal his wounds with the power of lightning and completely obliterate its objective. Life and death circulated in the law. In addition, it could strengthen Suaping by almost 50%, which was a horrifying boost. However, Suaping's longevity would be reduced when he tapped into the boosted state. He would also be massively burdened and might suffer injuries if he stayed in that state for too long. My combat ability seems to be higher than the little skeletons, but I'm not as good in the self-protection department. That fella is almost invulnerable. It actually reincarnates faster after mastering the law of annihilation. Suaping had a better understanding of himself after using the star state beasts as sparring partners. He was able to handle the enemies the little skeleton had trouble dealing with, although he had to try his best. His combat ability would soar to a higher level if he chose to merge with the skeleton. He would become even stronger if he merged with the Dark Dragon Hound or the Inferno Dragon again, and would easily kill enemies that could have worn the little skeleton out. Suaping tried to adapt the three laws to his sword technique during battle. The attack would be more powerful than anyone could imagine if he managed to compress and fuse the three laws in one move. Soon, the training for the first batch of pets was completed. Suaping returned to his shop and selected a second batch before he started training again. Fighting and training again and again. Suaping and his pets became stronger and stronger. They also grew increasingly familiar with laws. The battles in that dangerous place attracted the attention of many forces in the demigod burial. They learned that a certain guy was causing trouble in various high-risk areas. But then they heard he was related to the war goddess, so he didn't dare to pry further. At the same time, when Suaping killed Randall in Ria's central continent, splendid and beautiful buildings stretched from the foot of a lofty mountain, reaching all the way to the top. That was where the Rein family was located. There was a magnificent gate hundreds of meters tall at the foot of the mountain, with the name Rein engraved on top of it in the most intimidating way. A piece of shocking news had just disturbed the leadership of the family just then. The sixth prince is dead. Prince Randall's astral thought has just disappeared. What happened? Who did it? Randall died. The family leaders were shocked and infuriated. Randall's father, the second son of the family's patriarch, was grieving. He had two sons, the other son had limited talents and was destined to serve the family as a mediocre administrator. Randall, however, had extraordinary potential. He had been born with a high-rated constitution. He was very smart too, and was quick to grasp the sophisticated secret techniques. He became an advanced battle pet warrior at the age of 9. He reached the 9th rank when he was 12. He stepped into the ocean state at 17, then mastered multiple powerful secret techniques. He had also begun to unravel the mysteries of space. He could even fight some void state warriors without using his pets. He had reached the age of 23. He was able to deal with advanced void state warriors and escape from those in the fate state if he brought out his pets. One could say that the future was nothing but promising. It was even likely he would reach the limits of the fate state before becoming 100 years old. If he would have been fortunate enough, there were also chances for him to become a star state expert. And yet, such a seeded family descendant had died? Who did it? Have you found out where it happened? We've tracked him down by checking the expense records on his account. Something happened to him near Wofet City. Wofet City? On our very own planet. I can't believe it. Who's bold enough to kill our man on our very planet? Everybody was incensed when they found out he had died on that planet. It was their own territory. It was as if a stranger would have broken into their home and killed their child. How could they calm down? Get the surveillance footage from the satellites starting with the day before the accident. Investigate and find out where the accident happened, and who was so audacious to do it, declared Crate, who was responsible for the family's daily dealings. He was also a firstborn son from the Ryan family, Randall's uncle. The news spread within the Ryan family like a tornado, shocking everyone. Randall, who had been a dazzling star of the family, had died on Rhea. How was that possible? Some people in the family gloated, some were ashamed, and some were worried that it was part of a plot against the Ryans. No more than 10 minutes passed, a video clip was delivered to the family leaders. The evidence was part of a satellite feed. It was focused on the suburbs of Wofet after adjusting the zoom. Randall was right there, accompanied by an elegant woman and several guards. The video showed how Randall had a conflict with someone and fought over a pet. Undoubtedly, he had easily snatched the pet. Then, they talked. Soon, unexpected changes happened in the latter half of the video. Uncle Lay was next to Randall. He attacked, only to be stomped upon and killed by a stranger who had just emerged out of nowhere. What happened next infuriated every person who watched the video. Not only did the young man in the video execute Uncle Lay, but he also shattered Randall to pieces, not even minding to leave his body intact. Even the Star State secret treasure the family had prepared for Randall had failed to help him escape. It's the power of laws. He slashed the titanium cage open with his finger. He doesn't look like a local from this planet. He's a foreigner. I can't tell which planet he's from. Was he attracted to the torrent of thunderous dragons? Or maybe the upcoming pet contest? Find him right now. A muscular man growled with deep sorrow, I'll cut him into 10,000 pieces. I'll enslave everybody who is related to him by blood for the rest of their lives. He roared aggressively like a wounded beast. Crate grimly asked someone to search for the young man. He watched the video and frowned. Judging from the situation, the pet nabbed by Randall must belong to this black-haired youngster who's clearly a Star State expert. Randall must have warned him of his backing, yet the guy still attacked him. I wonder where he's from. He's at the Star State. We'll have to invite our father's friends to help, won't we? Have you noticed the girl next to Randall? She doesn't seem simple either. I heard that Randall had been dating a student of the Humia Academy. Is this true? Could she be the student? Well, the other family members were shocked by the speculations being passed around. The woman had also been brutally killed in the video. If she was a student of such a prestigious academy, would the man act that ferociously? He dared to kill a student of the Humia Academy? Is he not afraid of being hunted in Sylvie? More importantly, he couldn't escape even if he wanted to. Even though star state experts could drift in space, the Federation had advanced technologies that could scan every part of the universe except in dangerous sectors. The results were soon delivered. The black-haired young man in the video had been identified. The technicians found the suspect lived in Wofet after making use of facial recognition and the big data system. It just so happened that he also owned a shop there. Then, just after killing Randall, he simply returned to his shop and hadn't gone out ever since. What? Crate and the others present looked at each other with shock and suspicion on their faces. Is the man arrogant, or plain fearless? Everyone knew that Rhea was the Ryan's territory. Their leader was a star state expert who had plenty of friends and connections. Quite a few of them were staying in their estate. The guy didn't run off after murdering a man from the family. Is he waiting to be killed? It's great that we've found him. I'm going to kill him. Randall's father, Raymond, let out a furious roar with bloodshot eyes. Even if he's a star state expert, so what? We'll ask our father to mince him to pieces. Our father loved Randall the most. Everybody looked at him with fluctuating expressions. I'll report this matter to our father. Still, he's a star state expert who dares to stay after killing someone from the Humia Academy. We'd better find out more information about him first. If he's just being cocky, we'll make him pay a price he can't afford, announced Crate coldly. It was a promise of sorts to avenge his brother Raymond. After all, they belonged to a big family that had stood the test of time for 1,000 years and had plenty of members. Enraged as he might have been, Crate had dared to take reckless actions. It was rather perplexing to see how arrogant and fearless their enemy was behaving. He will have to give us an explanation, even if he comes from a powerful background. Men of the Ryan family can't die for nothing on our own territory. Nobody will respect us anymore if we don't do something. The other people also showed a grim attitude. Where did the student die? Her expenses record showed that the last known place she visited was a Tier 3 planet in Zero Prun, named Rhea. Got it. Ask the investigators to find out why, immediately. At the same time, in a certain dangerous place within the demigod burial, Suaping was fighting and training with a lot of pets. They had entered the deepest parts of that place. Suaping had even encountered beasts beyond the star state during their outing. The Federation would consider them to be on par with Star Lords. He was attacked the moment the beast took action. The laws didn't work on the Star Lord, at all. Suaping couldn't even understand the way the enemy attacked. He had to look for other star state beasts to spar. As for the pets to be trained, Fate state beasts were enough for them. The weaker ones among them could activate their potential in the presence of void state beasts. The ones at the Fate state would not benefit from it, they might even kill the beasts before they could react. If so, they wouldn't make too much progress even if they died 1,000 times more. I think my Fist of Exorcist is about to rise to the 3rd level. Suaping's own combat ability was also soaring during the training. Apart from his improved sword technique, he felt that his fist technique was about to break through. The Fist of Exorcist's 3rd level contained the power of laws and was quite brutal even among Star State fist techniques. I'll probably grasp another law if I can make a breakthrough to the 3rd level. Suaping thought. However, it seems that I must grasp the law on the 3rd level first for the breakthrough to happen. It seems to be quite a domineering law. Suaping's repetitive punches helped him deepen his understanding of the fist technique. He vaguely realized that, even though it was just a simple punch, it contained a mysterious and unstoppable law. Suaping knew he wasn't exactly talented, but his experiences were unparalleled, while he absorbed nutrition during the training sessions. In the outside world, someone was already waiting in line outside of the shop when Suaping went outside. Phileas had just walked out of the Star's pet shop. He was dumbfounded after seeing that. Didn't the boss say that business hours were over? Why was someone standing outside of his shop in the afternoon? Had they started queuing already? Phileas was stunned for a moment, then remembered his green alligator. His expression changed as he joined the line. His green alligator had been found to be Class A. The unbelievable improvement in a single day could have only been carried out by a master trainer in Sua Ping's shop. Rather, master trainers may not even have such ability. Perhaps only the 3-starred Grandmaster trainers did. Standing for a day outside was just a minor price to ask Sua Ping to train his pets again. Phileas chose to stand in line as he thought about that. However, standing just like that was rather boring. He looked at the passers-by, all of them were surprised, obviously not expecting that anyone would queue in front of a closed shop. The young man ahead of him turned around and asked with a smile, "Bro, do you plan to buy a pet tomorrow?" Phileas raised his eyebrows and said casually, "More or less." He wouldn't hesitate if he could buy a pet, but he preferred to spend his money on training after having experienced Sua Ping's pet services. Besides, he had only paid 100 million to improve his pet to Class A. It was definitely a bargain. He didn't doubt that a few more training sessions would help his pet surpass Class A. At this moment, a voice came from behind them. "Lily, this way." Phileas turned his head, only to find that 2 women were walking close. One of them was the shop owner from the Rein family he had seen earlier. "People showed up this early? It's a good thing we're close, we can't let other people take advantage." Cleo was rather unhappy as she looked at the men in the line. They were already queuing before the day was over. It wasn't hard to imagine how busy Sua Ping's shop would be. What infuriated her the most was the shop's uncanny rules. She had to queue up by herself. Being a member of the Ryan family, she was treated as a VIP in every shop and entertainment venue on that planet. Still, she was no different from an ordinary person at the moment, without any privileges. "Sister, didn't you say that he's a mean guy? Can we get more pets?" "I don't have room for more," said the purple-haired girl next to her. She had been dragged over, although she didn't want to be there. She was in quite the rush to fly back to her academy and see her family to show her pair of Class A Vast Sky Thunderous Dragons. However, her cousin dragged her to wait in the queue. Cleo snorted and said, "You can train the pets. Just terminate the contracts of your weaker pets if we find high-spec goods. I'll cover you while you're in a weakened state after the termination. But if you want to buy a pet, you don't have any free room for pets either, and you'll also become weak if you terminate the contracts with your old pets." Lily was confused. "Humph! I don't have to do anything by myself. Who would dare to touch me with my identity?" "That's true. You're the best, Cousin Cleo." Cleo raised her head and looked at the shop's closed door. She angrily remembered Sua Ping's face again, which remained impassive, even considering her looks or identity. The guys she usually met had always behaved like sycophants, or gentlemen, in order to impress her, because of her appearance and background. Some fools chose the opposite approach and purposefully ignored her to win her attention. However, she saw through their schemes right away and got even sicker of them. This time, she found that Sua Ping really ignored her. She was so charming, and had such a powerful background, yet the guy ignored him. That was unacceptable. "You have successfully infuriated me." Cleo was angry, and even angrier to see people queuing up outside of the guy's shop so early. She wasn't happy about his flourishing business. However, there was no way that she would leave her spot in the line, either. How could she let other people take advantage? "Cousin, are we going to stand here until tomorrow?" asked Lily in a low voice. Cleo began to seethe the moment she heard that. The boss of this shop is so horrible. He asks customers to queue in person and forbids line cutting or spot swapping. That's outrageous. "Well, I was just asking. I'm not mad at you, I'm mad at this hop." Phileas, who stood in front of the 2 women, felt awkward once he heard what they said. Even the members of the Ryan family had to wait obediently. He felt lucky he didn't go home earlier, or he wouldn't have gotten a place, no matter how early he arrived the next morning. A girl with beautiful, silver long hair approached them at that moment. Cleo sensed something and looked back. Her expression reflected a slight change as she recognized that she belonged to the Lei family. "Hello, may I ask if you're a lady from the Lei family?" Cleo, being a shop owner, quickly extended her hand and greeted the stranger. She was quite surprised to see anyone from the Lei family, the rulers of Zeroprun, the solar system which Rhea was part of. Naturally, the Rein family was subordinate to the Lei family. "Yes." Mia offered a modest nod. She was reminded of Lane, whom she had seen earlier when she saw Cleo's hair color and emblem, then casually said, "Hello." Cleo instantly sensed that the girl seemed to have some sort of problem with her, but they had never met before, so, the only conclusion was that she had a problem with her family. Cleo asked awkwardly, "Nice to meet you. You're here too?" "Wait in line," replied Mia briefly. She had intended to return to her hotel, but she abandoned her plan of resting in her hotel when she saw several customers outside of Suaping's shop. The place would probably be crowded by the time she returned the next day if she did make the trip back. Well, Cleo was somewhat unable to follow up with a proper reply. "Someone from the Lei family is waiting in line here?" She was rendered speechless in the end, not expecting Suaping to have the gall to refuse someone from the Lei family. No wonder he didn't care about the Ryan family backing her. That guy was a real piece of work, unbelievably cocky. Phileas heard Cleo's greeting and the name Lei, he was just as shocked. He didn't expect to meet someone from such a powerful family, led by a Star Lord. They controlled an entire solar system. He peeped back, not daring to stare at her. He didn't know what to say. He had complained about the queuing earlier, but then people from the Ryan family and the Lei family had joined him. It was definitely an astonishing scene. The other customers in line also fell silent after witnessing the interactions. They felt lucky that they didn't go home, or they might not have found a great spot if they showed up the next day. As time went by, more and more people joined the queue. It was the first time going to that street for some passers-by. They didn't know what had happened previously, but they asked around, seeing that many people gathered in front of Suaping's shop. Everyone was immediately dumbfounded by the news. All of them went and joined the queue, too. Even more customers joined the queue when the news was further publicized. The news was reported by various news outlets. The unexpected appearance of 10 Class A vast sky thunderous dragons shocked all the residents in Wofet. Some media disseminated the news throughout the camp continent via their channels. All of them were sold by a shop named Astral Pet Store. I believe you're as curious as me, dear viewers. Has there ever been a shop this lavish? This man here is the store owner. As for business hours, it sometimes opens in the morning and sometimes in the afternoon. The entire camp continent became chaotic after the news was reported. Finding one pet with Class A aptitude was already rare enough, not to mention the popular vast sky thunderous dragons, Rhea's ideal pets. Selling 10 of them at once for no more than 1 billion each almost sounded like fake news. Nobody would have believed this story if it hadn't been presented by an authoritative news source. Everyone would have laughed, thinking it was something concocted by some troll. Astral Pet Store? Never heard of it. When did such a super pet shop appear? Has another corporation entered the market? Don't bother with that. Oh my god! 10 Class A vast sky thunderous dragons were sold on the cheap. No wonder the boss was so arrogant, declaring to open at random business hours. This shop is definitely peculiar among all the pet shops. Are you fools or what? This must be a marketing strategy of the shop. How could anyone sell Class A vast sky thunderous dragons for only 400 million? You're the fool here. If it really is a marketing strategy, why didn't he sell them for slightly lower than the market price, so that people like you wouldn't suspect? Even if he sold the dragons to the actors he hired, he did have 10 vast sky thunderous dragons that were publicly assessed to have Class A aptitude. Can you do that? Where's the shop? I think it's somewhere close. The trolls are here. This is obviously a scam. Are you kidding? 10 vast sky thunderous dragons with Class A aptitudes were sold for only several hundred million? Why does the shop even exist? This marketing strategy will surely backfire, unless they sell all the other pets at the same cheap price. I already have 2 vast sky thunderous dragons. Just wanted you to know. People of the camp continent discussed heatedly on the internet. Some believed the news, and some thought it was an obvious scam. Many people chose to be cautious and wait some more. However, the reckless ones among them had already left for Wofet that evening. Some of the rational guys pondered over the available information, then decided to go and find out the truth with their own eyes. The night fell. The glowing neon lights on the buildings and the streets revived the whole city, making it even livelier than in daytime. Above their heads was a clear starry sky, and on the streets was the splendid nightlife. The beautiful girls that could hardly be seen during the day were all roaming at night. There was an already long queue outside of Suaping's shop. That mediocre business street had instantly become the most famous in Wofet City, with several times more traffic than before. Customers were everywhere. The revenues of every shop on that street had doubled. Since it was currently under the spotlight, Suaping's shop had attracted the most customers. Why are they waiting in line? Hey, didn't you read the news? The rules of this shop have been listed on the internet. If you want to buy pets, you bond with the pets on the spot and buy them in person. You can't give them away easily. And, no matter who you are, you have to wait in line. I heard that the boss even declined an offer in the tens of billions. Really? That's so unbelievable. Why would any businessman refuse money? Who knows? We'll find out by tomorrow if it's true. So many people are waiting in line here. They can't be all wrong. You're right. Cleo, who was at the front of the line, heard the discussions and became gloomy. She was exactly the person who had offered tens of billions. Little did she expect that she would act as foil to make Suaping's shop stand out. She became even angrier. Damn it, what's going on here? Outside the shop a brawny man arrived with a few lackeys, only to be shocked when he saw what was going on outside of Suaping's shop. He was none other than the man whom Joanna had thrown out of the shop on their first day of business. He was scared of Joanna's strength back then, so he went looking for his friends. He didn't not expect to see such pomp and hubbub after he returned. All the people who were waiting in line outside of Suaping's shop was an already sobering sight. Is this the shop? A purple-haired young man's expression showed a slight change. He was feeling some pressure because of the shop's popularity. Most of the customers in line were Ocean State warriors, but there were also some Void State experts. Those people were already enough to drown them. Nobody was here earlier in the day. What happened? The brawny man was rather stunned. Who cares? This shop has to be closed tonight. Damn right. He doesn't know who's in charge of this street. The few men who went there to make trouble were shouting arrogant remarks. Even if there are many customers, so what? Would they stand up for the shop owner if he's asked to close down? The purple-haired young man stood at the center of the group and frowned in silence. He noticed that something was off. Some of the customers in the line were quite strong, a few of them had even reached the Fate state. There was also a familiar face at the front of the line. That woman was from the Rein family. She wasn't from the main branch, but she was talented and respected. She would have been given much more resources if she were from the main branch, and she could have made greater achievements. Let's go. The purple-haired young man thought for a moment and decided to take action. In any case, he couldn't easily let go of someone who had offended his lackey. When the purple-haired young man and his lackeys went straight to the shop's door, many people in the line shouted. Hey, hey! Who are you? Line cutting isn't allowed, okay? Yes. Go to the end of the line. The purple-haired young man ignored them and spoke to the brawny man, go knock the door. The brawny man then tried to smash the door, but the door wouldn't budge, although his fist was strong enough to bend iron. His expression changed as he tried again, while exerting even more strength. Still, the second attempt was still unsuccessful. The door remained intact and solid, as if it were made of the hardest stone. His expression changed once again. He knew the shop was protected, but he didn't know that the protection would be that good. He immediately shouted aloud, "Open the door! Open the door!" There was no response. The people waiting in line watched them coldly. They wanted to see if the boss would come out because of the shouting. If he did, they could immediately enter the shop. As for the people who were yelling, they had to go back to the line again. Nobody wanted to lose their spot. The brawny man was quite angry. He shouted several times, but still, no response. His face was hot when he felt like 1,000 eyes were fixed upon him. He cursed while feeling embarrassment and furious. Still, nobody reacted even after he cursed for a long time. Many people started to wonder if the shop was empty. Was the boss somewhere else at that moment? However, someone saw that the boss had returned to the shop. He had not gone out since then. The brawny man walked back to where the purple-haired young man was and said with a contorted expression, "Damn it, the guy is pretending to be deaf." The young lord frowned with flashing eyes and considered the situation. It was exactly at that moment when the whole street became silent all of a sudden. There was a blood-curdling aura, one that felt like a flood or a horde of beasts coming from afar, enshrouding the street. Everybody looked up, only to see that the source of the horrifying aura was not one person but three. 3 strangers were flying over from a certain point in the horizon. Their silhouettes grew as they were getting closer. Anyone with a star state cultivation could possibly rule a planet. And yet, 3 of them had made an appearance? The fact that they were flying in Wofet City already suggested that something unusual was taking place. They could be from the Rein family. Every descendant of the Ryans had permission to fly in the cities of Rhea. Alternatively, they had special identities from other forces, or boasted the power of the star state. They didn't bother to conceal their auras, unstoppable as giant eagles blotting out the sky. Everybody on the street felt an enormous pressure and almost fell to their knees. Star state, some ocean state passers-by were already pale and shaking, about to kneel due to the pressure. They felt such an intense threat of death, as if they were facing star state beasts. It seemed that the space around them had thickened and went beyond their control. It could suffocate them at any time. Their grandpa's friends. It's them. Why are they here? While in the crowd, Cleo and the purple-haired young man were shocked to realize the 3 strangers were guests of the Ryan family. They were also friends with the O'Neills. Why have they gathered here? Did the 10 Class A dragons sold here catch their attention? Did they find out that there was a master trainer or maybe a grand master trainer backing the shop? Cleo thought quickly with flashing eyes. Whoosh! Very soon, the 3 men stopped above Suaping's shop. Everybody on the street looked at them in awe. The previously prosperous street became dead silent. This is the store, right? That's right. This many people are waiting in line? Seems like the business here is quite good. Something's wrong with this store. My senses cannot peer inside. The 3 men floated above the shop and looked down at the shop indifferently. They were actually surprised to find that their senses had been unable to penetrate the shop's defenses. Let's do it. Make him come out, said a red-haired young man. His hair was fluttering in the wind, and the bulging veins on his temples made him look aggressive. They looked like tattoos. He raised his hand as he talked, then he unleashed scorching flames. The space in contact with the flames began to twist and crack. As a result, the edge of the flames was almost black. Bang! He directed the fire to smash the shop, leaving a black trace behind. At the same time, a white-robed old man raised his hands as if he were about to sweep them through water. The customers outside of Suaping's shop were pushed away by an invisible force. The space between them and the shop was lengthened, even though they didn't move and the street didn't change. Sua Ping's shop became isolated once the surrounding space was lengthened. The Star State experts are going to attack this shop. What is going on? Did this shop do anything to piss off these 3 Star State experts? All the people present were astounded by the scene. They were shocked by the Star State experts' methods, nor did they expect that they would attack Sua Ping's shop. The next moment, the previous flames which contained the horrifying power of laws reached the top of Sua Ping's shop under everybody's shocked eyes. All of them thought that the shop would be destroyed after a deafening surprise, but reality presented the opposite result. The flames died out without a sound, as if they would have been doused with freezing water. They didn't even cause a sizzle. What's happening? Were they blocked by the shop's defenses? I almost wet my pants. That attack definitely involved the power of laws. How can any defense block that? All the people on the street were dumbfounded. How rich must the shop owner be, to equip the place with defenses that could resist Star State powers? The Ryan's HQ was probably the only place that had such luxuries. Sua Ping's shop, which everybody thought would turn into ash, remained unscathed. It was quite shocking. Still mingling in the crowd, Cleo was quite stunned. On the other hand, the brawny man, the purple-haired young man and the others who were yelling on the street were quite astounded by such development. They didn't expect that the shop would be able to resist a Star State attack. It was obvious that the shop was supported by a powerhouse. No wonder he was so arrogant. The brawny man ducked his head and felt lucky that nobody had opened the door when he yelled just then. He probably would have been taught another lesson if a big shot were to show up. In the air, hui! The red-haired young man was surprised to see his attack nullified. He sensed that his attack didn't hit a thing. It was almost like touching cotton, and then it was absorbed without causing a blast. His partners were also surprised. They didn't see it coming either, for an attack infused with the power of laws to be ineffective. It had to be noted that they could turn the entire city upside down if they wanted to. Star State experts could sweep across a planet. Given enough time, they could destroy it. Set up a barrier and let me have another try, said the red-haired young man with a low voice and piercing eyes. The old man and another black-haired woman nodded. They quickly raised a barrier, separating the shop from the street. Once the barrier was set, the red-haired young man took action again. His body glowed with a red tint, making him look like a brilliant sun. Violent energy was gathered on his hands, which were burning like magma. He then smashed down, unleashing an aura that swallowed the shop. The daunting attack caused the entire street to quake. However, the aura thawed like snow the moment it touched the shop's roof. There was no sound, it simply disappeared like the previous attack. I can't believe it. Both the white-robed old man and the black-haired woman were surprised by such an outcome. This shop remains untouched even after all the secret techniques and laws we've already used? The red-haired young man narrowed his eyes in shock. He became gloomy as he looked at the shop, which continued to stand quietly. After taking a pause to ponder, he said, "Let's attack together. I don't believe that the defenses of this shop can compare to the O'Neill's Astral Diamond defenses." Both the white-robed old man and the black-haired woman nodded and gathered their strength. Soon after, their attacks were launched to consume the entire shop. The leaked power from those attacks made everybody on the street tremble. Some battle pet warriors who hadn't reached the ocean state had even fallen on their knees. Bang! 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 The 3 attacks shattered space and struck the shop, only to disappear again. A solemn-looking trio attacked again. Brilliant attacks, secret techniques, and auras that contained laws were unleashed. The red-haired young man had already drawn out his weapon, which was a red long spear. He condensed the shadow of a roaring tiger on his spear and launched it. The spear was deadly enough to pierce an ordinary Star State beast. However, the shocking attack disappeared again after hitting the roof. No matter how much power they exerted, the shop remained unmoving, like a reef by the sea. Bang! 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 The primary space was torn apart, the shop then stood in the dark secondary space and showed no reaction to the bombardments. After the attacks disappeared and space was healed, everybody found that the roof of the shop remained undamaged. What level could such a defense be? The whole street was silent. Everybody was wide-eyed, too stupefied to talk. The three people in the sky breathed heavily. They were surprised and wary that defense had turned out to be even more horrifying than the astral diamond defenses used in the Rein family's HQ, which would have been unable to resist their attacks with such ease, and would have collapsed if they had kept attacking. However, there were no ripples at all on the shop's defenses. It seemed that they hadn't even damaged them, at all. The man in the shop was bold enough to come back after killing the sixth prince. Was he relying on us being unable to destroy this shop's defenses? This can't be a top black star shield, can it? If so, not even O'Neill would have been able to break it if he were here. The three of them looked at each other in bewilderment, that was completely out of their expectations. They had tried their hardest for a long time and had almost ended up breathing heavily, yet they couldn't even break in. The power that such horrifying defenses represented made them flinch. Anyone who had such defenses installed had as many resources and connections as the Ryans did. While the Ryan family ruled that planet, it wasn't the only planet in the universe. Who knew whether some foreign adversary would ever decide to set up a branch there? Should we retreat? Yes. The red-haired young man's proposal was supported by the white-robed man and the black-haired woman. Exactly at that moment, the shop's door was suddenly opened. Suaping walked out of the shop. He had just returned to the shop with a batch of trained pets when he detected several Star State vibes that were on a rampage outside the shop. He was slightly surprised, so he paused the training and opened the door to find out. He saw the lightning rat by the door the moment he opened the door. The rat had gotten a lot fatter, it was looking up at the sky, with more curiosity and thoughtfulness than fear. Suaping was not surprised by the lightning rat's reaction. After all, it had been to the chaotic realm of the undead with him. There were many people who were even more horrifying than Joanna's original self. It was a top world that could compare to the Archean divinity. Suaping raised his head and saw 3 Star State battle pet warriors in the sky. Hey? Who are you? Suaping was confused. He looked out of the shop, only to find that the customers seemed to be at arm's reach when they actually stood thousands of meters away. They were considerably separated from each other, but their cue was still obvious. Could it be that the vast sky thunderous dragons he sold had attracted Star State battle pet warriors? Suaping opened his mouth and said to the strangers, "Are you here to train your pets? Today's business hours are over. Come again tomorrow." He then added, "Of course, feel free to get in line in advance. No line cutting is allowed." The 3 people in the sky were completely stunned. Queue up? Queue up my ass. So, this guy didn't know about the attacks they had launched just then? He didn't know anything? Is he, at the Ocean State? How is it possible? Let me take a look. The white-robed old man took out a delicate device the size of his hand and aimed it at Suaping. Suaping was soon captured by the device. He had Ocean State signals when the data were read and examined. The old man's eyeballs almost popped out due to shock. They had all seen the video where Suaping killed Randall, so they recognized him immediately after they met. Suaping broke the titanium cage with a slash made with his fingers, which indicated the power of the Star State. He also killed multiple Fate State guards. Yet, you're telling me that he's only in the Ocean State? Can anyone in the Ocean State crush those in the Fate State so easily? What a horrifying disguise, the white-robed old man gasped with shock and fear. Even a device specifically configured was unable to see through him, so, his disguising technique was truly remarkable. The old man didn't believe that Suaping was the only one with the Ocean State paradigm. The other 2 strangers also wore solemn expressions. "You're the one who killed Randall, aren't you? Why don't you come with us?" said the red-haired young man coldly. Suaping was stunned. "So, they're not customers? Who's Randall? You mean the piece of garbage I killed earlier? Asked Suaping curiously. The trio immediately became gloomy, and the red-haired young man said, I don't know where you're from, but this is Ryan family's turf. It was inappropriate of you to kill innocent people in the open. Besides, one of your victims was a student of the Humia Academy. So, you're from the Ryan family. Suaping was enlightened and lost interest in him. If you know I killed him, you must know why I did it. I'll give you a chance to apologize to me. I'll spare you if you do. The trio was stunned while one of them nearly choked. He also held no respect for the Ryan family, either. What's going on? What are they talking about? The customers on the street couldn't hear their voices, due to the defenses and the special spatial tricks that one of the Star State strangers had used, lengthening the distance between them and Suaping's shop. They could only see the conversation, but not hear it. Still, everyone was waiting earnestly. Sir, that's too cocky of you. The red-haired young man became cold. He said, you killed the sixth prince of the Ryans, a person who had boundless potential as a seed of his family. You want us to apologize to you, instead of you apologizing to us instead. You regarded that piece of garbage as a seed? You should thank me for screening out a black sheep of your family, said Suaping casually. You are way out of line. The white-robed old man's expression also changed. The defunct Randall was a junior, but he was quite appreciated by O'Neill. Suaping had just referred to him as a black sheep. Even if he were, he was still the Ryan's black sheep. No outsiders had the power to kill him. Outrageous! Suaping narrowed his eyes and said coldly, he could rob me of my pet just because he liked it. Talk to me with your fists rather than your tongue if justice doesn't mean anything to you. Who's backing you? Asked the red-haired young man solemnly. He would have attacked already if he could have discovered Suaping's background. The Ryan family preferred doing over-talking. However, all their attacks had been blocked and neutralized by the store. The shop's defenses were extraordinary, and Suaping's disguise technique covering up his real cultivation was horrifying. That was why the young man was still too scared to attack with full force. Hee, you're scared of my background. Suaping sneered and said, if so, apologize to me and get the hell out of here. You're affecting my business. Your business? The three people were infuriated by the guy's arrogance. Why is he this rude to people of our level? Does he really think he's a big deal? Are you at the peak of the Star State? Or maybe even a Star Lord? They would even be willing to kowtow to him if he were a Star Lord. Still, it seemed that he would have slapped and killed all of them without exchanging a single word, considering how arrogant he was, if he really were a Star Lord. Neither of the three strangers believed that Suaping had the power of a peak Star State warrior. After all, such a person would be qualified to be Lord of a Tier 1 planet. They were so important that they could make a fortune every day without doing a thing. Such characters had inexhaustible money, enough to support an enormous family and raise tens of thousands of people with abundant resources. They wouldn't have to set up a shop there, at all. Sir, we've come here respectfully to discuss the solution with you. Do you have to be so rude? Said the red-haired young man with a brusque tone. He was still rather scared of the shop's defenses recently displayed. Once he heard this, Suaping raised his eyebrows and said, you've come respectfully? My shop is already isolated from the street. You must have attacked my shop, but it eventually resisted you. You attacked my shop without even talking to me first. Is that respect? The red-haired young man was rendered speechless. They had indeed planned to force Suaping to come out of his shop by attacking it. Little did they expect that the shop would be as hard as a turtle shell. Suaping, who had been inside the shop at the time, didn't even seem to realize they were attacking. Why bother talking? We're 3 against 1. You think we're afraid of you? Snorted the black-haired woman who turned out to be the one with the shorter fuse. She was ready to attack, with coldness written all over her face. The white-robed old man became solemn too and said, "Let's find out how hard your fists are, sir." "Hard enough to shatter your skulls," replied Suaping indifferently. Whoosh! A black aura suddenly came close, as the black-haired woman made the first move. She darted a black saber at Suaping's neck through the torn space. The saber evaporated when it entered the safe distance of the shop. Suaping knew that the system took action. Its notification popped up in his head too. "Do you want to punish the intruder?" "I'll do it myself," Suaping replied in his head. He intended to find out if he could fight 3-star state experts of the Federation at the same time. He was able to do that with only one life when visiting the demigod burial. He was by the door of his shop. If the enemies were too strong, he could always retreat to his shop to save his life. That would be a great exercise for him. Break! Suaping pointed his finger. Lightning emerged from his fingertip and a grey aura entangled them. A sword aura instantly dashed out with the laws of boom and annihilation. The primary space was torn apart, and the secondary space was distorted. The black saber was then cut apart, the power of laws it had was shattered. 2 laws, the red-haired young man narrowed his eyes and was surprised by the situation inside the secondary space. But he soon sneered and said, "Just so. Take this." He suddenly punched, a scorching fist aura burst out like the glowing sun. The sun rose and illuminated the sky over Wofat City. The rays were so dazzling that even the neon lights on the street were eclipsed. The pressure of the sun was so powerful that it tore space apart. The twisted secondary space was spread out with darkness, excluding everybody on the street. Golden flames were still raging in the secondary space. Even the secondary space became unstable and had cracks. The white-robed old man and the black-haired woman stepped into the secondary space too. Suaping raised his eyebrows. He didn't stay in his shop any longer, then stepped into the secondary space. What is going on? Did all of them go to the secondary space? Let's go to the secondary space and watch. Is he going to fight 3-star state experts? How is it possible? He's the owner of the shop, isn't he? Is the boss also a star state warrior? Oh my god! Why would any star state expert do business there? All the people on the street were appalled. The primary space had already healed, and nothing seemed to have happened. However, they saw how the horrifying star state experts and Suaping entered the secondary space. Some of the void state customers made use of the mysteries of space and also entered the secondary space. The ones with fate state cultivation didn't hesitate either. They tore apart space and entered the secondary space. "Let me." Cleo was quite shocked while she was lying low in the crowd. She didn't expect that Suaping would be bold enough to accept a fight between him and the 3-star state experts at once. Is he bluffing, or is he really a star state expert? Without any hesitation, she quickly dragged Lily and tore an opening into the secondary space. She was a void state genius of the Rein family, and she was much more familiar with space than her peers were. Mia, who had been right behind them, was also stunned to see Suaping disappear into the secondary space. She made a spatial opening of her own without saying a word. She was only an ocean state warrior, but she was quickly able to tear through the secondary space. She had obviously grasped Flash already, as well as the mysteries of space normally associated with those who broke through to the void state. That was the unusual talent of an Amir Royal Academy's student. It was anything but unusual for them to grasp knowledge beyond their level. The geniuses among them could even easily beat opponents above their level. In the meantime, hardly had Suaping entered the secondary space when he found that the power of laws that the red-haired young man had released tore the secondary space apart. The tertiary space, which was darker and more suffocating, had also collapsed. The fractures were getting bigger and bigger as they approached Suaping. Suaping watched coldly, simply letting his body be consumed by the tertiary space. It was a space where even star state experts had to tread carefully. The laws of space and void present were extremely destructive, they could cause authentic attacks of law. It was also said that some weird void creatures lived there. They were more like apparitions than creatures, causing dreadful things when anyone encountered them. So, not even star state experts would easily enter the tertiary space. Swoosh! Suaping felt like he was covered in ice the moment he arrived in the tertiary space. The tertiary space was so cold that it was almost like the North Pole. The sharp torrents of air were sweeping close by. The power of space they contained could have torn a regular void state beast into countless pieces. However, Suaping was as sturdy as a fate state dragon with the second level of the solar bulwark. Their torrents caused nothing but shallow marks on his skin, which quickly healed after they appeared. A dazzling ball of fire dashed towards him at that moment. The fireball was burning and raging like golden fluid. Suaping detected the vibe of laws coming from it. It was one of the laws of fire. He didn't know what the law was, but he was able to feel that his body as well as the energy in it were quickly burned into ashes when the heat of the fire reached them. He was being continuously weakened. The power of that law seemed able to burn up anything. God of Lightning! Suaping suddenly took action and punched out. He unleashed the Fist of Exorcist that contained the God of Lightning's law. Including the Fist of Exorcist's own power, it soon moved closer and collided with the fireball in the blink of an eye. Bang! Although no audible sound waves were spread out, everybody unconsciously heard the deafening explosion. In the next moment, the golden fluids splashed out and illuminated the dark space. Suaping's fist aura had lost multiple fingers and looked horrible, as if it were rotten. A third law. The red-haired young man and his partners were shocked after sensing the law that was completely different from the first two laws. Whoever mastered three laws had a power close to the mid-phase of the star state. It was also of note that Suaping had yet to merge with his pets. If he did, plus the power of laws that his pets had mastered, he could definitely unleash a combat ability close to the mid-phase of the star state. Attack using full strength. The red-haired young man was rather gloomy once he saw that his attack had been nullified. Suaping's law was even more powerful than the law that he had always been proud of, which made him feel both angry and shocked. His law of burning was one of the top-tier laws in the fire class. It was very close to the ultimate truth of fire. Some laws were more powerful than others. The laws that were closer to the truth and had a better match were the most powerful. Their collision just then suggested that the law that Suaping made use of was closer to the truth of lightning. If he practiced and became more familiar with the law, he would definitely grow up to be one of the strongest among those in the star state.